Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you find yourself in this weird, wild, wacky world of ours, and welcome to the exciting installment of Darkness in Dublin. This evening's scene takes place in the train station at Waterford Central, as a certain Fabian Lockley steps from the train. It's rather interesting. There was no one on the train this entire time down. It seems as if people are just avoiding Waterford, but why on earth could that be? As you step out of the train onto the tiled station steps, you will see it's a rather ordinary building, probably built in the middle of last century. It's large and open, so the wind whips your clothing up as you step off the train. It's the last train down, so you'll have to wait and catch another one coming back tomorrow morning, more than likely. You'll probably have yourself shipped back to Dublin, because let's face it, that's nice and easy. But as you step out onto the platform, you hear what sounds like the trumping of heavy feet towards you, and you see two individuals making their way slowly down the I've forgotten the word. Platform. There we go. For some reason I couldn't remember the word platform. Down the platform towards you. One of them is this individual, who's smiling like it appears to be a young man. He is smiling very, very broadly, and he says, "We were thinking you were going to be late."
I apologize, but it's very difficult to get out of Dublin when it's so... There are many eyes, shall we say.
Oh, I see. Well, needless to say, I'm going to be going and taking you to the boss. That's okay, I assume.
That is most perfect. I've been dying to meet him.
Oh, I wouldn't use that verbiage if I were you.
It's very bold to use such pronouns with our kind.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But needless to say, it's all good. So come on. They turn and they walk down the platform again, leading you outside to a waiting car. They will sit in the front seat of the car and will proceed to drive you through the city streets. As I pointed out, it's somewhat deserted here. You see the occasional person scurry between buildings, but you could almost scent the palpable expression of fear. Um, you will eventually come up as you drive through the large open gates of a castle towards a bridge that separates it from the mainland as it sits on a tiny island. The individual in question will get out of the car when you've crossed over the bridge and are standing in front of the castle gates, and he opens the door for you to step out.
Alrighty?
Needless to say, you don't happen to have any cuts or wounds on your personage at this moment in time, do you?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, good, good. Sometimes, the master's pets get a little bit over anxious.
I'd be concerned if they weren't.
Very good. Please come this way. They will walk up the steps through the large open double doors that appear to be made of some kind of hardwood that's been painted over green. But they will lead you through another set of doors into what appears to be a main hall-like area. A large fire burns and crackles in the hearth, and you hear some very, very beautiful music being played. You'd assume maybe Brahms being played on the piano. Um, it's a recording, you can tell, but it's being pumped through this room. In the center of the room, you see a man who's been suspended, or rather held down, in a kind of a spread eagled position in a spread eagle position. His arms and legs tied taut with very, very tight leather straps. He is screaming his lungs out. Like you can see the motion of his face as he screams, as he takes in the air, and as he lets it out. But there's no noise that comes from his throat whatsoever. And you see standing over him. The only adjective I can use to describe the voivode is it. Um, as it looks to be neither male nor female at this point in time. But it has what looks to be a red mass of sinewy flesh in its hand. And hey, Connor, you're a doctor. He's ripped out this person's vocal cords, and
I love
it
that.
it will slowly turn to look at you, and this is staring at you.
Connor will politely bow her head. My lord.
Leave us. The attendant quickly bows and skitters is the phrase I would use out of the room. It holds up its hand for a moment to indicate you to stay where you are before, with a very casual flick of its wrist, you see it snap the man's neck who is held down before it, and it will say, "Such a waste. I do hope that the journey was not too, how would you say in English, difficult."
The journey was fine.
Hmm. Needless to say, I offer you hospitality whilst under this roof. Of course, you know that it's a very ceremonial thing for a Zamitsi to say to another Zamitsi.
I wouldn't be quite sure of what the response was to that, but that's out of character.
It's just to accept their hospitality.
I would graciously accept such an offer.
Good. Good. Now then. You see him walk over to a table that is covered in white cloth, and he moves it back, and you see underneath the cloth a huge collection of body parts that have been ripped, torn, gouged, and shredded from human remains. And he places the larynx and the voice box down amongst them with a flick of the wrist before he moves the rather stained white blanket up to cover, or rather stained white sheet up to cover them again.
I will just quickly state, though I can't actually do it. I think Fabian will continue this conversation in Romanian.
That's fine. He will answer it. He will be able to speak back to you in that. For the record, you know the voivode was originally a he, which is why I keep using the adjective he.
Mhm.
It's just that this is how he's choosing to appear at the moment. So, but he will take his seat, which is at the end of the room. You can tell this used to be some kind of museum exhibit. So this is the kind of the high back chair that they probably had in the original Great Hall, etc. And he takes the chair, he sits in it, and he says, "So, I'm curious. How long will it be before your friends in the north decide that they need to dislodge us from our holdings here in the south?"
Well, from what I can gather, they have been rather busy. However, now they are running out of things to do, and very quickly their eyes are focusing back on us, shall I say. Time is of the essence.
Needless to say, they have left it too long. I have received word in the last few days from our brothers and sisters in Mexico City that they have dispatched aid to us here.
All I need do is hold this fetid little city until such time as the aid arrives.
How are your defenses?
As well as can be expected, my pets and what remains of my servants will keep this place. It will take a concerted effort to dislodge us from here, and they only have, as I pointed out, a short period of time before our reinforcements arrive. They are currently being curried in a dilapidated oil tanker from Mexico City.
I would assume that the frequency we received was from them.
Correct. Ah, so you have heard the frequency, which means the Camarilla have heard the frequency.
Indeed.
Unfortunate, but expected. So they will more than likely be coming sooner rather than later. They pent their fingers together, and as they do so, you see the long nails on each hand. But they pent their fingers together and they say, ultimately, when we were forced to abandon Dublin and move further south, mm, this was a blow to prestige and to honor. I do not like being forced to leave my holdings and make myself scarce. But then again, you are young. Honor is a very odd concept to the young, I find.
If I may say, I find myself a bit more distinguished compared to those of my age.
Hmm. Does a pebble know that it is distinguishable or distinguished compared to a rock?
You make a point.
Hmm. Needless to say, when we retake Dublin, you will be richly rewarded for your service to the Sword of Cain. Hmm. As it currently stands, we are ready for their attack when it comes. Your primary mission will simply be informing us when the attack is to occur.
I shall do so as soon as I hear.
There's a single nod of the head as it says, the nights tend to slip through fingertips. They tend to become intangible. But I have faith in your abilities to do what is needed. My associates outside will furnish you with a new cell phone and the correct numbers to contact us should you find the information we require. In which case, make your excuses. I would hate to see you rendered on to final death because you were inadvertently caught in the crossfire.
I do not plan to meet final death until my duty is done.
Duty, an interesting term. Yes, duty to the sword, duty to the Sabbat, duty. So much duty. Well, We shall do what is required. We shall bring about a new tomorrow. Very well. Do you have any questions to ask of me before you depart, Fabian Lockley?
Well, I do have one thing that I was going to point out, and that is my handler had very specifically informed me that my duty was to ensure that your evacuation from Waterford was seen to safely.
I have no intention of running away. Plans have changed. Mexico has decided to allot us the forces necessary to retake this fetid island, and that is what I intend to do. Do you have some objection to this?
It would be bold of me to question the actions of one so venerable.
No? Good. Needless to say, if I know when it is they intend to strike, I will arrange a welcoming party for them.
I only wish I could be there to witness it.
My pets have not been fed properly in some time. I have no doubt that they will be more than adequate for the task. But I do not wish to overkeep you, Fabian. As I said, when this is done and this country is once again in our hands, you will be richly rewarded for your service. I will see to it that it is done. I believe that we should reward those who prove themselves worthy. Do you not agree?
I would most certainly agree.
In that case, I shall hope that your footsteps are always found in moonlight, Fabian Lockley. You may leave me.
And as do you, my lord. Farewell.
As you walk out the door, this individual will hand you the phone that was promised, and he'll say, "When it is you have the information, simply send us a text. We'll know what to do from there."
I shall inform you at your earliest convenience.
In that case, I'll wish you luck. All right, and at that point, I think we can end our scene. So thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. This has been another short scene in Darkness in Dublin. Have a pleasant evening.